Hi there. Uh, my name is still Ryan, and I have a special guest.
I'm Christy Dodds.
Yeah. So Christy is actually is overseeing the mentors on the women's side, and if you're watching this, you probably already know that. So we are doing another preemptive video. It's going to be the new normal of just trying to get these out before you get before the week starts. So we're looking at assessments, which start next week. Your meetings should start uh, next week, and yeah, so just a few notes. I think we're going to record this and then realize we forgot something, I'm afraid. But we'll do our best and cover some things to know. The first one is, and I mentioned this in the last video, if you have been meeting in a public place, you've been going to some coffee shop or whatever, this is the time to reestablish a new meeting place that is more just private. It's not going to be a place. You don't want to be meeting for these next few weeks in a place where people can be listening or watching, because when people go through their assessments, there's a good chance that people will be sharing things that make them feel very vulnerable. There's a good chance there'll be tears involved, and you're going to want the freedom to be able to pray together without worrying about other people's eyes. So two options. You always meet in a house. Well, there's more than two options, but you can meet in a house. You can meet also at if you can go to botanical gardens, I suppose. And there's other options. You could also meet at the Soul Care office, but you would need to book a room through Joel Peterson, and I'm going to put his email on and at the bottom of the link. I mean, it's JoelP at christchapelbc.org. You want to give him enough time to get the email and book a room. He's here Mondays through Thursdays. I think he could do it quickly, but if you email him on Saturday, don't expect to have a room on Sunday. So that's one thing.
I think also to remember that it might take a little longer to do these assessments as opposed to the
Oh,
times
good
that
word.
they've been meeting in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe closer to 2 hours.
Yeah, it depends. I have one guy that, I mean, I've just gotten to talk a little bit with him. I don't think there's going to be much of anything under abuse, and even not much on anger. I can tell he's going to have issues later. So you just, but if you don't know anything, plan on having to spend more time than average.
Yeah. The other thing to remember as you're meeting with these mentees throughout the whole assessment process is that it's not our job to fix them.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of what we're doing is that I love the story of the friends who brought the paralytic before Jesus, and it was just their job to bring him to them, to lower him through the roof so that he could be at Jesus' feet. And Jesus does the healing, not us.
Yeah, that's our role then. We are, in a sense, just bringing this person before the Lord. We're not fixing them. That's not our role. That's really tempting, too. When people are pouring out their hearts and sharing stuff, it is against a lot of our natures just to sit back and listen. It comes very naturally to a lot of people to say, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing this?" Or rescuing them, making them feel better at that moment. Just listening is our role. There's a little more, but listening is our main role. Good word. As people, so this week it's going to be the abuse assessment and the resentment or anger assessment. As people share in their abuse assessments, you want to have your mentor book open to page 49, 50, 49 and 50, I think, or maybe page 48 and 49. It's page 49. There's a notes section.
48 and 49.
Don't worry too much about getting all the notes in the right place, but there's some different sections in there, and just kind of pay attention. Maybe read beforehand lies that they believe or vows that they're making, and do your best to kind of jot down some things. But after they finish each row, reading a row from their assessments, then turn to page 50 for the abuse one, and 50, 51, and read along with them as they pray, or pray along with them as they pray those prayers. And for the anger ones or the resentment ones, it's the same thing, but it's just pages 52 and 53 for the notes, pages 54 and 55 for the prayers. I hope that's clear.
Also, to remember when you're doing the abuse assessment that your mentee should only be reporting or speaking about abuse that pertains to them, where they've been the victim of abuse, not abuse that they might have done to other people.
Yep, it's a common question. The abuse they've done to other people, if they have abused, will show up in their guilt and shame assessment later on. So this is not the place for it's where they have been abused. And like I said, there's a good chance that somebody doesn't have anything in there. I hope,
Right.
obviously. Um, Another thing, the stuff that shows up in their abuse assessment will likely also show up in their other assessments from a different angle. So if someone was sexually abused, uh, something happened growing up, there's a good chance that's going to show up also in the anger assessment or maybe in the sexual immorality assessment. The same situation. It's not like they have to, once they cover it in the abuse assessment, that has to be done. They're moving on to other things. No, there's other angles of how that's affected them. So be aware that abuse assessment stuff likely will show up again in future ones. Another thing, something to remember, it's important that if your mentee confesses something of about abuse that had happened to them as a minor, it needs to be reported. There's no statute of limitations when it comes to that applies to abuse of a minor. That never runs out. So you're obligated to report that. I would say you contact us within 24 hours so we can help you with any necessary reporting. We'll walk you through that. If it's, but yeah, so if there's any abuse that happened to your mentee when they were a minor, that still needs to be reported.
One last thing on the anger and resentment assessment. You're going to have 3 different prayers that you can pray through with your mentee. There's resentment toward others, resentment toward self, and resentment toward God.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's confusing for people when they think through it, but if there's doubt, I'd say, again, I'm angry at others and I'm angry at God. Well, pray both. Those prayers, I don't know what to, they will, they just have a way of cleaning out your heart and resetting things. And I would rather over pray on these things than under pray. And if that makes sense. So I would imagine resentment toward others, though, is going to be the prominent theme. That's the most likely prayer that's going to be covered. So I hope those help. You're going to see a pattern for the next 3 weeks because the next 2 ones will be similar. But abuse can be a bombshell for some people, and anger is often, a big one too. So it's not done alphabetically. It might look like it, but it's done strategically. I hope those things help, and appreciate you guys listening. And certainly appreciate you serving.